Hello, and welcome to Living with Lions, the Mountain Lion Foundation's monthly webinar series. I'm Gowan Batiste, the Coexistence Manager for Mountain Lion Foundation. The Mountain Lion Foundation is a national nonprofit dedicated to ensuring that America's lion survives and flourishes in the wild. Our work is funded by individuals who care about mountain lions, with members in all 50 states and around the world. You can become a member at mountainlion.org. While you're on our website, you can also find out how to be an advocate for mountain lions in your community and to policymakers and learn more about these amazing animals. This month, we're excited to be joined by Denise Peterson. Denise is the founder of Utah Mountain Lion Conservation. She studied natural resources management, wildlife biology, and geographic information systems, or GIS, at Grand Valley State in Allendale, Michigan, and has worked on a wild field study in the Peruvian Amazon, tracking radio-collared ocelots and other wild cats in the area. Her work experience includes the Mountain Lion Foundation, Yellowstone to Unitas Connection, and Voices of Wildlife. She's passionate about mountain lions and their continued existence wherever they are found. You can often find her in the mountains, checking trail cams and tracking cats. And today you can find her with us, and we're very excited. So I'm calling in from Mendocino County in California, and Denise is dialing in from Utah. So Denise, thanks so much for taking time to talk with us.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here. It's an opportunity to talk about two of my favorite things, which is mountain lions and trail cameras. So as Gowan mentioned, I'm the founder and director of Utah Mountain Lion Conservation. And Utah Mountain Lion Conservation started as a passion project for me back in 2017. Not too long after I moved to Utah, not too long after working in Peru, tracking and studying cats down there, and using trail cameras to better understand their behavior. So today we are officially a fiscally sponsored project by social and environmental entrepreneurs with a focus on improving social tolerance of mountain lions through collaboration, education, community, and research. We heavily rely on trail cameras to help tell the stories of our wild lions here in Utah. So what are trail cameras exactly? So if you take a picture at the camera on the left, this is a Browning Recon Force Extreme trail camera. And this is a consumer grade trail camera that uses PIR, or passive infrared systems, to detect motion to turn the camera on to record the activity in front of the camera. On the right are professional cinema grade trail cameras that we use to help show stories of our wild lions here in Utah. And we use Canon R5 bodies within a Cognisys system. And so the box that you see protects the cameras from the elements. And these cameras use both beam brake triggers, which act as essentially a tripwire for when a wild animal crosses and breaks that beam to activate the camera, so we actually get them coming into the frame. These cameras also use PIR to detect motion, so it really depends on what system you want to use depending on your environment. So why do we use trail cameras to further our conservation efforts in Utah? And the reason that we use trail cameras so much is because not many people have the opportunity to see a wild mountain lion. In fact, we use trail cameras to help counter some of the myths and misinformation that we hear about mountain lions, as well as helping people understand how these animals actually act. We also use trail cameras in partnership with Brigham Young University and the Division of Wildlife Resources on the Central Region Cougar Study. We've been partners on this study since 2021, and the study looks at prey selection and scavenging behavior of mountain lions. We'll also use trail cameras on active kill sites to document different interactions that might happen within mountain lions specifically, or what other animals are actually showing up to these kill sites to either scavenge or pick up a free meal, or what animals come in and kick mountain lions off of these kill sites. So, yeah. there. So one of the most important things to do when determining where to put a trail camera to hedge your bets for finding a lion is to learn how to read the landscape. So the primary things that we look for are tracks, scrapes or scat, or kills. On the right, you'll see a mountain lion kill that we found a couple of years ago, and this one was actually not that far off of a road, and we got some amazing footage off of that. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about tracking, but I wanted to give you all a general overview of how a mountain lion track compares to that of a dog or a canine. So on the right, you'll see a picture of a female mountain lion that we collared last fall, and it'll give you a really good idea of what their paws look like. So lion paws compared to dog paws display asymmetry. So if you look at the diagram on the left, you'll see that the toe pads for the lions are not even. They're asymmetrical, whereas the toe pads for the canines are even with one another. And then take a look at the heel pad. For the lion, you'll have 3 lobes on the bottom of the heel pad and 2 at the top, whereas with the canine, you only have 2 at the bottom and 1 at the top. One of the biggest misconceptions we hear when somebody sends us a picture or asks us a question about a track is size. So we're often sent pictures of a track and somebody says, hey, this track is so large, this absolutely has to be a mountain lion. And I'll tell you what, size is the thing that we rely on the least for identifying tracks, because we've been out on the trail several times now and come across dog tracks that are way larger than any lion track that I've ever seen. So we never really rely on size. Another common misconception is claw marks. So it's often believed that you'll never see claw marks in a lion track, but there are exceptions to that rule. So if you look at the picture on the bottom left of your corner, this is your more conventional mountain lion track, and it's probably one of the prettiest tracks I've ever come across in the wild. And so you don't see any claw marks in this one. You've got the 3 lobes, toe pads that are asymmetrical, no claw marks. But the 2 pictures on the right are both lion, but you can see the claw marks in these tracks. So what's going on here? So on the picture on the far right, the lion's moving through pretty steep country and using claws for traction. The picture in the middle, the lion's punching through a hard surface on the snow and her paws opening up like this. We also look for scat and scrapes, and scrapes are more or less the bread and butter for determining where to put cameras, because we know that lions will come back to these sites. But scats are one of those indicators that say, hey, you're on the right path. So lion scat is about 1 inch in diameter, segmented with blunt ends. And in general, they're about 5 to 9 inches in length, but they're pretty broken up, as you can kind of see in this picture here. They're also chock full of fur because they're obligate carnivores, meaning they only eat meat. And a lot of that fur ends up in their digestive system and ergo in their scat. So scrapes and latrines are where we will generally place cameras, because we know that a lion is going to come back to these sites. And I've got a video here of a male mountain lion making a scrape right before a female mountain lion shows up. And they use these scrapes as a way to visually and communicate through scent that this is my territory, or I'm looking for a mate. So I'm going to play this video for you quick. Again, this is a male mountain lion scraping, and you can see how he squats down and he scrapes with his back legs, and then a female shows up. So this camera is actually on a latrine, and a latrine is a place where you have multiple scrapes and multiple scats, which tells you this is like the equivalent of mountain lion social media. This is where they're all going to come back time and time again to say, hey, I was here. Hey, check me out. The fun part about this video right here is that this was only recorded a few weeks ago. So we're on kitten watch now. So hopefully in the next few months, we'll see little bodies running around on the mountain. So I wanted to go through some of our trail camera footage that we've gotten over the years and share the stories of some of these cats that we've gotten to know. Some are recent, some are a little bit older, some are from the study, some are not. But the general concept here is we're going to start at the beginning of a mountain lion's life cycle and work through and talk a little bit about what we're seeing at these different life stages. So this is one of my favorite clips, and this one actually takes us back a few years to 2019, I believe it was. So the lion that you see on the right-hand side of the frame, we named him King. And we've been following that cat for quite a while. He's a mature Tom. And we actually lost track of him 2 or 3 years ago, and we believe he died naturally, given the area that he's in. The cat on the left, we call her Leona, and we've actually followed her since she actually took off from her mother. And we've actually watched her raise 2 litters now, and we're waiting for a third in the near future. So this is the beginning of her first litter. And I hope you guys can hear the vocalizations here. The mountain lions will spend about a week or so together while they're mating before they part ways. You can actually hear her purring, and you can hear a little bit of frustration in her vocalizations because he's not actually paying that much attention to her, because this camera is set right on the scrape and he's sniffing that scrape. We actually caught them on 6 different cameras strategically placed in about a mile's length of mountainside. So once you get these animals' movements dialed in, it's nothing to get a consistent movement pattern over weeks. So with the male on the right, we were able to get him consistently every 3 weeks or so. So in this next clip, you're going to see kittens that are about 2 weeks old. And these are not the same kittens from the mom and male from the previous clip. They're actually from one of our study cats, and you'll see 3 of them here. And so mountain lion kittens are born with spots, which act as camouflage to help hide them from other would-be predators. And to get into where this den site was quite an ordeal, because mother mountain lions are quite good at stashing their kittens in pretty safe, hard to access places. You can't see it in this footage because their eyes are still closed, but they're actually born with deep blue eyes that will turn gold as they get older and turn into adults. And I love that little foot in the face right there. So as kittens get older, they switch from relying on their mother for milk to eating meat. So the kittens that you're going to see in this clip, they're about 5 to 6 months old, give or take. And again, these are one of our study cats. And so this camera is placed on a kill site to document the different types of interactions that occur here. So in this situation, we really only caught the cats. We didn't see any other species move in. And we ended up pulling the camera after about a week or so. So these kittens here are quite vocal. And you're going to be able to hear a number of different vocalizations ranging from growling and hissing and chirping and squeaking to spitting, which is a really interesting behavior. You can see mom plucking the fur off of the deer that she's on. I love the ferocity of that second kitten. And so without trail cameras, these are behaviors that we wouldn't otherwise get to see. So they're providing really vital information and insight into how they interact with one another. So this is that same family group, but I could not help but include this one because this is a mama mountain lion caring for one of her kittens. And it's fun as you watch this clip, watch for the eyes of the second kitten in the background, still munching away on dinner while mom grooms the other kitten. And if you listen, you'll actually be able to hear them purring. Mother mountain lions can actually be quite nurturing, and this is a behavior that we don't get to see very often. So again, this is where trail cameras come in quite handy in being able to show people this behavior that, again, we almost never get to see. We'll often hear comments about their radio collars, but they provide us so much information on what's going on with these cats, how they're using the landscape. And they help us make better decisions about how to manage mountain lions overall. And here in Utah, these collars help keep these cats alive because within the boundary of the study area itself, lions are protected from hunters. The collared lions are. So we've already heard a few mountain lion vocalizations, right? As mountain lions get older, they'll still continue to vocalize with one another. And I wanted to include this clip that shows a female mountain lion with kittens that are getting a little bit older now. So we're getting closer to about a year old here. And so kittens will start wandering off on their own a little bit more, becoming a little bit more adventurous. And so they'll use chirps to communicate with one another. So in this situation, mom is saying, hey guys, come here, where are you? And this camera is actually placed on a lion latrine. So again, you're gonna get some amazing footage off of a lion latrine if you can find one. That right there is a chirp. And in the background, you'll hear a very upset squirrel. I love hearing them coming in and crashing in through the forest as they come running to mom. So these kittens are older. They're probably closer to 10 to 11 months old. So kittens will exhibit a lot of different play behaviors, and what these play behaviors are, in essence, is a way to practice their hunting skills. So here are two more of our study cats. This is 58 and 59, a brother and a sister, as they're playing at a kill site. And this is footage we haven't ever shared before, but it's really interesting to watch these different interactions take place. You can actually almost get a sense of what stalking behavior looks like in this video when you watch one of the cats crouch down and get into stalk mode as it sees its sibling in the distance. So now we're getting into a cat that's a little bit older here. And this is a really interesting clip. And you'll see one mountain lion here that's a little bit older. That's the mature female. And then the younger kitten that's by her side is her offspring. So if you think back to the footage of the female during the day that was vocalizing to call her 2 kittens in, this is her, but she's unfortunately down to 1 kitten. And what had happened was the other kitten, we believe, was killed by another male mountain lion who had actually come through the area. So mountain lions have a pretty rough life and they have a lot of challenges to face, but she did raise 1. And this is as he was getting closer to dispersal himself. So what you're actually seeing in this clip is Mama Mountain Lion displaying estrus behavior around her son. And so at no point is she at risk of being mated by the youngster, but this is one of the first signs that said, hey, these two are about to part ways. You can see how he's acting a little bit differently around Mom. So it wasn't too long after we got this footage that these two stopped showing up together on our cameras. And this is actually behavior that's actually pretty rarely captured on any kind of trail camera. So we were pretty excited when we actually got this. And this is a small excerpt of a 10-minute clip where they stayed in front of the camera here for almost an hour. So not too long after we recorded that, we got Mama back on camera with a male mountain lion in tow. And so in this clip, you're going to hear a vocalization that many are familiar with, and that's the caterwaul. And the caterwaul is essentially the maiden call that says, hey, I'm available. And in the foreground, you'll actually see one of the cinema cameras here on the ground. And see, she's scent marking again. I love watching that male kind of creep up behind her. And this has been such a productive site over the years. And see, he's sniffing to check her out. So when young mountain lions are dispersing in search of a territory of their own, it can be a really dangerous time for them. So as they're heading out on their own, they face a lot of dangers, like competing with other established mountain lions for territory, or running into conflicts with people as they're moving through the landscape, searching for a territory that they can call their own. They also run the risk of being hit by vehicles or killed by hunters. This is one young cat that we captured on our cameras last spring. And I love how it just stops right in front of the frame. But mountain lions face a lot of challenges, both in the wilds and around people. Our trail cameras also help share other stories and other behaviors that we might never be able to see otherwise. And this is one such clip. So there's been a long held belief that mountain lions are not very social. And researchers are finding that is not necessarily so much the case. Researchers have actually documented adult mountain lions sharing kills with one another. In this clip, you'll see 2 adult females playing together, and these 2 cats stayed together for almost 3 weeks, at least as far as our trail cameras told us. And in this clip, you'll see them playing around a tree. And I'm not sure exactly what their relationship is, but I suspect that they were either litter mates or maybe a mother-daughter. But again, These are two adult cats actually playing with one another. I love how you see the other one just run in. And they chase each other around the tree and bat at her tail. The cat in the back to me looks a lot older than the cat in the front, just looking at the face and the body size. Another behavior that we don't get to see very often is cats taking cat naps. And so this male mountain lion right here, he actually ended up taking a nap in front of this camera for about 6 hours before he eventually took off. And so one of the questions we get asked a lot is if we use scents or baits or attractants, and we don't whatsoever, just good old-fashioned tracking and knowing what to look for. And so this camera is placed again at a lion latrine, and he is not the first cat that we got laying in front of the camera, but he is hands down by far the cutest. Go back. There we go. So one of the reasons we really focus on using trail cameras to share these conservation stories is the belief that if people are able to see these lions as they actually are, it will, at the end of the day, help further conservation efforts, because we're faced with a lot of challenges, not only here in Utah, but across the West, wherever mountain lions are found. So a lot of the things that we try to tackle through our work are social intolerance, fear, and misunderstanding. And again, sharing these images, these stories about our lions, not only through the trail cameras, but through the pictures that we take, is to share that mountain lions aren't just these scary creatures lurking in the mountains all around us. So many people are active in the mountains every day without issue. In fact, the cat in this picture here, I sat with her for about 3 hours in person, photographing her through a scope. So that's why this picture isn't that fancy. But as I was sitting with her, there were trail runners and hikers zipping up and down the trail below her, and she paid no attention to them other than the occasional glance. So a lot of our work is just sharing these stories and helping people see mountain lions as they actually are, not just as they're seen in the media. Other challenges that they're faced with here and abroad are habitat loss as the urban expansion pushes further and further into wildlife habitat. And then another issue, not only in Utah, but across the West, is overhunting and poor legislation. So this past spring, language was added to an otherwise innocuous bill at the very last minute without the opportunity for a public comment at all. And the language opened mountain lions to year-round hunting and added trapping to the mix. So prior to this bill, lions were not allowed to be trapped in Utah. And the problem with the new language, the new law, is that overhunting of lions is not supported by science in any way, shape, or form, and the vast majority of Utahns do not support this legislation either. So excessive hunting can actually lead to a lot of problems with lions, including an increase in the number of conflicts that we see with them. And the reason for that is because what it does is it essentially disrupts their social structure. So you have a structure that's comprised more of a greater number of younger, less experienced cats who are more likely to get into trouble. Another rationale behind passing this bill into law was that it would help grow mule deer numbers. But research has found that overhunting of lions can actually have the opposite effect, because what it does is it kills the more prized trophy animals out of the population, leaving again more younger cats that are specialized on killing smaller prey like mule deer. So instead of having that distribution of older and younger cats selecting for, say, elk and deer, you have a lot of younger cats that specialize mostly on deer. Also, through our partnership with BYU and the Division of Wildlife Resources, we've actually found that with the heavy hunting that we've had here in Utah since the passage of HB 125 in 2020, which mandated that the Division of Wildlife Resources needs to increase predator hunting tags in certain units to try and increase mule deer numbers, we've actually found that it's helped in only one unit. And much of the state is in predator management. So we're already seeing that it's not necessarily helping. So having legislation that opens even more lions up to being killed isn't necessarily going to achieve desired management outcomes. Another issue with the law is now mountain lions in Utah can be trapped, and trappers can use a wide variety of different traps, including snares. And this in general lacks public support across the board. And unfortunately, traps are indiscriminate, and a number of different non-target species will be killed. Kittens can be killed, females with kittens can be killed. So a lot of harm will come from this. So a lot of the work with our trail cameras will be helped to drive and inform the public on how this bill is actually impacting our wild populations. So I wanted to leave you with one clip. And if you remember the footage of the female caterwauling with the male in tow, these are their kittens. And the reason that I wanted to end with this clip is because for me, it represents hope that through education and helping people understand mountain lions and what they're actually like, that through that education program, through that awareness, people will become interested in mountain lions and want to take action to help protect them and to coexist with them on the landscape and take the steps necessary to help keep both us and them safe. So with that, I wanted to thank y'all for coming out today. I really appreciate your time, and let me know if you have any questions.
Thank you so much, Denise. It's really, really special to get to see behind the screens of your work and to get to see this amazing footage. And the Q&A has actually been pretty active, and we have some great questions. To start you off with, we have a great basic biology question, which is they're asking if mountain lions do or do not cover their scat like domestic cats do.
That's a great question, and it depends. So for the most part, no, they don't cover their scat. But we have found that females that have recently given birth to young kittens do cover their scat. So as a rule, no, but there are always exceptions.
Makes sense. So we have another question from New Mexico. Do you have any advice for getting in touch with organizations that may be interested in help with trail cams?
Again, a very great question. We get asked this all the time. And for the security and safety of mountain lions, we generally don't ever bring volunteers out into the field. Because, you know, it comes with a lot of risks for the lions themselves. So vetting can be difficult. As far as other organizations go that use trail cameras for their operations, I'm trying to think of anyone in any other states that use them to the extent that we do. And none really come to mind. But what I might suggest is if you do live in a state that has mountain lions and you have mountain lion footage that you'd like to be used for conservation efforts, maybe reach out to an organization in your state and offer to contribute that footage or those images to their work.
We love when people send us their footage and images from all over the US. So yes, please do that. So from Julie in Colorado, given how elusive these cats are, the fact that we can learn so much now from tech, is it reasonable to suggest that this research can replace the research of the past that used lethal methods where lions were killed to learn about their behavior?
Yeah, that's a great question. So trail cameras definitely offer us that opportunity to observe their behaviors and their interactions. And for example, what's happening at kill sites? How often are they losing kills to other species? What other animals are coming in there and eating off of these meals? We can also learn about how they interact with one another and how they raise their families. But there's also a lot of value in using radio collars. And I know that there's a lot of controversy around them, but they do provide so much insight into the fine scale behavior of what these animals are doing on the landscape. And they help us better understand seasonal movements that we might miss through trail cameras. There are also other study mechanisms coming into play. So rogue detection dogs, they actually work in the field using dogs to find lion scats or other wild animal scats, to collect important data on them. So for example, DNA, to get to know the different individuals in different areas. So there are non-invasive methods to study animals, and then there are also the more invasive methods, which are using the collars, and there's merits to both.
Oh, so from Katie at Defenders of Wildlife, which, hi colleague, thanks for coming. Do you have recommendations for camera models to use or not use for these kinds of projects?
Great question, probably one of my favorite, and I do have bias. So I generally, as a rule, will stick with the Browning trail cameras, but they are on the pricier end. They run about $180 per camera, but the reliability and the quality, I think, is unsurpassed. And so we, in our early days, went through a whole bunch of different camera models and finally settled on Brownings, just because I know that I can trust that camera. And all cameras are eventually going to fail. It's going to happen. But overall, I've liked using them the most, just because I know that I'm going to get that image quality that I want. So a lot of camera trappers want the very, 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 very high-end cameras, and they're great and they're fancy and all, but I think that the Browning trail cameras offer you that happy medium. So they're affordable and they have quality.
It's fantastic. So a question from Mike, how do we combat the recent disruptive law in Utah?
Awesome question, Mike. There's a lot going on in the background in terms of how we're going to try and tackle this law come next legislative session. And it's still too early to really discuss those. But I would say if you're in Utah, one of the best things that you can do is reach out to your representatives, get to know them, have a conversation with them, share your concerns about the law, share research that you find with them about how the law is going to impact not only mountain lions, but also other wild species, and encourage anyone that you know in the state to do so. And then if you're from out of state, you can also reach out to, say, businesses that operate in Utah that you support, and let them know that you're concerned about this and that you'd like them to take a stance. And that'll become very handy come next legislative session when we need people to rally to the call.
Fantastic. So here's another great question from the Mexico border. How many square miles can one mountain lion occupy?
So great question. Male mountain lions will actually occupy a larger territory than females. So their territories are on average around 100 to 150 square miles. It can be more and it can be smaller. Females on average are going to be smaller, so 55 to 75 or so square miles. And so a male's territory will overlap that of several females, whereas male territories won't overlap as much, but we are seeing some overlap occurring. So if you think about the latrine footage of the female when she called in the 2 kittens, we actually have 2 males that will move through there fairly regularly. So there are no really hard and fast rules. It depends on the individual and what kind of environment that they're in.
Right. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Denise. You're such a wealth of information, and really recommend that everybody check out Utah Mountain Lion Conservation. I follow Denise on social media. It's fantastic. Recommend that. And if you enjoyed this Living with Lions conversation, be sure to join us again next month and invite your friends. On July 19th, in Coexisting on a California Homestead, you'll learn how the Mountain Lion Foundation helped the owners of beachfront farms deal with the depredation event. They weren't expecting to have dealing with mountain lions on their morning chores, but we'll learn how everything can turn out all right in the end. Then on August 16th, we'll be chatting with long-distance hiker Renee Shira Patrick, who will share practical advice for how to coexist with wildlife while exploring backcountry trails. And in a few days, we'll post this webcast on our YouTube channel so you can rewatch it there or watch any of our other past talks. So folks, thank you so much for tuning in and for all your great questions. You're the best mountain lion advocates we could hope to have. And please feel free to continue using us as a resource. So thank you so much. And I hear Lay saying in chat, we will follow up with as much as we can. And thank you again, Denise. This has been spectacular.
Thank you so much for having me, and thanks everyone for coming out. Appreciate you guys.
Totally.